Hi, this is Kathleen LaValle with Huntsville Tutoring Company. It is August, so what better time to talk about study skills than August? I am a firm believer that we need to start off the school year on the right foot, and getting some study skill habits in place at the beginning of the year will make the rest of your year so much better, and it will help your child know what to expect and have a system and be able to succeed before they start to fall behind. So tonight I want to share with you a little bit about my study skill journey so that you can take some of my ideas and hopefully use them for your child. And then we will do another video this month and I will share some specific things that I used to do and that I do with some of my students now, and show you some images and resources that you can use for your students or for your children. So, as many of you know, I have struggled with school for many years, and when I was younger, they didn't know what was going on. My mom does not have an education background, but she knew she had to help me, and so she just jumped in and figured it out as she went. One of the first things that I really remember about this journey is studying. I know I had trouble learning to read, and I went to a tutor and they did some special stuff at school to help me, but I don't really remember a lot of that. But what I do remember is the amount of time that we had to study. I loved school. I loved my friends. I loved the school I was at. I loved the community that was there. But I had a really hard time learning at school. I could sit in a classroom all day and I would not comprehend hardly anything that we learned. So the only thing my mom knew to do was to reteach me. So from a very early age, I remember it really in third grade. I would go to school. I enjoyed it. I would come home and my mom would reteach me everything. She had a king-size bed. We had 3 dogs and we would all pile into the bed and she would reteach me what I had learned. It took a lot of time, but that was the only way I could make it through. And looking back, I think one of the things that my mom really did that helped was she wasn't just lecturing to me or reading from the book. She was having a discussion with me. And I know a lot of dyslexics and a lot of people with attention issues, you can look at somebody like you're listening to them, or you can read the words, but just because you can read the words doesn't mean you understand what you're reading. And that was me. So my mom would read a paragraph, or I would read a paragraph, and then we'd talk about it. And she would pull out words and say, do you know what that means? Because a lot of times I didn't. My vocabulary was very poor. And so if you don't understand words within a paragraph that you're learning about, then you're not going to understand the big scheme of things. So for a couple of years that's how we did everything, is she quizzed me, we quizzed in the car, we quizzed everywhere. Multiplication tables were very hard for me. I remember her calling out words or calling out equations to me when we were driving, and she would tap on the steering wheel and I was supposed to answer within a certain amount of time. Spelling words, we did a multisensory technique, which we had no idea what that was back then, but we would sit on the porch and she would give me a spelling word and I would take a volleyball and I would throw it up against the blank wall and I would hit it back and forth, and for each time I bumped it against the wall, I would say a letter, and that's how we practice spelling. So my mom was very creative and helped me figure out, how I learned and what we could do at home to help me. And then I got to middle school, and studying is a little bit more then. There's a little more content and you're expected to know more. And so I had to start coming up with a way to help myself, in addition to my mom helping me and making sure that I understood what was being taught in class. So at that time, I switched over to note cards, and she used to joke and say that we needed to own stock in note cards because we went through so many note cards. But using note cards was a strategy that I used all the way through college and even through my master's program, because that is what worked for me. So when we do the other video, I'm going to go back and show you specifically how I used note cards to help. But I really just wanted to share these experiences with you to tell everybody that it's okay to have to study. And in fact, when you're younger and your child, or if your child is younger and they're struggling, yes, it's frustrating and you feel bad for them not being able to just go to school and understand it all. But if you can teach study habits at an early age, it is going to equip them to be super successful throughout their education career, because pretty much everybody hits a point where they have to know how to study. And sometimes that doesn't hit till you're in college, and then a lot of students struggle because they've never had to study. So this is what I tell Ellie all the time. Yes, it stinks right now that you're having to do this and nobody else is, but what we are teaching and the routines and the procedures and what she's learning about herself right now is going to help her go really far in life, because those skills are easier to learn now than to learn later. So check back our video that comes on in the next week or so about specific study strategies, and I hope they help. But if you guys have any questions, let me know.